Hi, and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
Coming at you live from 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane. You might be listening to us on 102.1 FM on Z Digital or around the country on the Community Radio Network. This is Z Games. My name's Jack and I'm in the studio with Ray and Adrian. How you going?
Hey!
Hello.
Hi! I'm back.
You are back.
I'm back from Japan.
Yeah, we both are. We both went to Japan.
Wow, back. Back and at it again on Z Games.
Back in black.
Pretty close.
Back in charcoal
I'm in
and
blue.
denim.
I'm back in blue.
Charcoal
for
and
those
yeah.
listening at home who can't see us.
Beautiful. We've got a pretty packed show coming up. We have a review of 2 Point Radio. That's exactly what we've got. 2 Point Hospital.
Uh-huh.
You're playing a lot of weird simulation games, Ray.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was Game Dev Sim,
Uh-huh.
and now it's this.
I love to get into the technical stuff.
Didn't the last one get you really depressed?
Oh, yeah.
Wait until the
you
show
okay, Ray?
later on to see if this one also gets him depressed. We've also got a
Yeah.
chat with Luke Lancaster of ReadPop Australia. He's the
Nice.
content manager for PAX Australia and Oz Comic Con. We're going to be talking to him about PAX Australia in Melbourne later this month.
Holy.
And all the seats are breaking in for
Ray's
studios.
chair just spontaneously lowered.
Yeah.
Are you okay, Ray?
Yeah, we're good.
I'm here for it. It's fine. Before we get to all of that, and hopefully any of the other furniture breaking in the studio, Adrian, what are the gaming news headlines of the week?
Blizzard Entertainment has seen a change of leadership this week as longtime studio president and company co-founder Mike Morhaime has stepped down to make room for J. Allen Brack, formerly the executive producer of World of Warcraft. He co-founded Blizzard in 1991 and produced many of their early successes, including StarCraft, the first two Diablo games, and World of Warcraft. In 1998, he was inducted into the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame. Morhaime will remain on payroll at the company as a strategic advisor.
That's a good place to be in payroll, baby.
Yeah.
Because it's not much work. Well, I mean, I imagine it's like a lot of wisdom, but also
Yeah.
not a lot of like hard break your back work.
Morhaime,
Yeah.
more money.
It's like,
On it.
this guy's obviously a high-functioning game developer.
Well, he
Yes.
he
Yeah.
was in
I
charge of
mean
Blizzard.
it in every single,
Every single way you're thinking of.
non-ironic way.
And
that-
ironic.
Yeah. But, for him to just disappear into the ether and probably buy a tropical island and then vanish with, obviously
All that
of
Blizzard
his,
money.
his beautiful partners that he's obviously accumulated over
Partners.
the years.
That's
You know,
true.
he's looted, and all of his money and all of his stuff. It would be great just for Blizzard to be able to go, yo, what do you think about this idea? And to have that official. So I think that's why he's on board as strategic advisor, just to keep him in the fold, even though that job sounds like a really cruisy, awesome job.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
basically like answering 3 phone calls a week
I
and
would-
getting paid for it.
I would take that job, man.
Yeah.
It's only 3 phone calls. Oh, God.
That's a guesstimate.
That's-
The reality's probably, I'm just spitballing from the other side of the world,
Dude,
and I
if
know
could-
nothing.
If I could take 3 phone calls a day, that'd be
The
good.
reality probably is that he's on that island playing a bunch of World of Warcraft and just kicking back.
Yeah.
Having a good time.
He's like, finally, I can dedicate my life to World of Warcraft. This is what I've always wanted.
World of Morheimcraft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
On you, Mike Morhaime. Blizzard's a great company. Good stuff.
Got him.
But not that great. I'm going to be seen as impartial for journalistic ethics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're great, but not that great.
Yeah.
Just
But
to
I also
balance it out.
have jumped into Overwatch again lately.
I love Overwatch, man.
I love me some WoW.
Temple of Overwatch, let me worship you.
What's the next story?
What was that
Adrian?
about being
Please-
impartial?
Please move on.
Sony has confirmed that it is currently working on a successor to the PlayStation 4. Sony worldwide chief Kenichiro Yoshida remained tight-lipped during his interview with the Financial Times, but admitted that the company was working on next-generation hardware. This follows a statement from Microsoft at E3 earlier this year, saying that work had begun on the next generation of Xbox consoles.
Top story. Big global companies want money. This shouldn't surprise anyone.
We're ready for the next cycle. It's been a while. I didn't realize it's been a hot minute.
Five
Xbox
years.
One X launched last year.
Oh, upgraded of the same generation, though. It's an upgraded device.
But say that to the people who spent $700
Yeah.
and buying a new console in a year and a
Well,
half.
that was the thing, right? This generation, and I guess even the last generation, they were touted as, when the PS3 came out, it was like the 10-year life cycle console, and it did hit that mark, right? And then
Yeah.
some. I think, yeah, you're right, Jack. There is a increased amount of lifespan in the consoles
Yeah.
now. So That's kind of, I think, why I haven't been... It doesn't feel like it's been as long as it has in previous generations. It doesn't feel like we're ready for the next cycle because of consoles like the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro. So it is interesting.
Also, it doesn't really feel like, at this point, that we're like missing out on stuff with like next-gen hardware. Like, GTX 20 series was announced recently. They were like, here's ray tracing. And it's like, what next-gen graphical... Like, what do games look like in the next gen of like 2020? It's like... that different to what we're playing now, and even then, how does that affect gameplay? Like we've seen a lot of gameplay tropes established over the last 15 years, and we've seen a lot of games make incremental increases or incremental changes to that, but not massive changes. And so like, it kind of feels like gaming has kind of matured, and that means that these consoles have a little bit more time to mature.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we are seeing diminishing returns not just in the technical capabilities.
That's a far more concise way of saying it.
The devices, but in also in the gameplay, because you know, we've got like the biggest companies in the world working on games all the time. There's hundreds being published every month. You know, like it's hard to crank any more innovation out of this game. You know,
I think what it is, it's going to be about the experience and the world building that will benefit from increased technological, I guess, capability. Like Elder Scrolls 6, I'm sure that, you know, they're already at a point with those games where you've got full view distance on console. But hey, maybe it'll run better, faster frame rate. You'll be able to fit more into the world. There'll be more of a, you know, cache size for stuff that you drop on the ground, and you can then come back 50 hours later and see that same thing on the ground that you dropped. You know,
this is what we're paying $700 for. What's the next story?
That's it. Overwatch fans who have become consumed by the game will soon be able to reverse their predicament, as it was revealed that Kellogg's will launch a breakfast cereal themed around the popular online shooter. A junk food enthusiasts website called the Junk Food Aisle spotted the listing in a product guide for retailers. The cereal will be called Lucio's, a real-life version of the fictional cereal that appears as advertising within the game. The cereal itself bears a similarity to Green and Gold Fruit
typo.
Loops. Thanks for the typo.
Also,
there,
you
right?
found my website, the Junk Food Aisle. Why is that real?
I'm sorry, I had to try so hard to not crack up during that story. Lucio's.
It's actually Lucio O's.
Lucio O's.
It should, you know, here's my editorial. It should be Lucio's because it flows off the tongue better. But in the game, it's Lucio O's.
Is it SNES or Super? No, we did that.
We did that earlier.
Yeah.
It's SNES. So we can put that one to bed. But
Lucio's.
Okay, Lucio's. Will you eat them, Jack?
Are they getting released in Australia?
We don't know. We don't know.
Sounds like it'd be an American only thing.
But that's not the question. The question is, will you eat them?
No.
They're Fruit Loops that are green
Weird.
and gold.
No.
Do you want to amp it up, Jack?
Oh, if it's green and gold, that's like Aussie.
Yeah.
I feel like that could probably make the jump.
Don't you want to amp it up?
Hang on,
Just
I've
like
got,
Lucio.
I've
Now
got
you
the
can.
Lucio program ID here. We'll play that later.
Hey, look, that's exciting.
It is.
It's cereal. What are you talking about?
No, it's a shameless cash grab.
Exciting in quotation marks.
Yeah, it's not exciting.
In other news, Skybound Games, the company founded by Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman, has announced a deal that will allow the Walking Dead adventure game to continue. The Walking Dead The Final Season had released 2 of 4 planned episodes when Telltale Games laid off 90% of its workforce and cancelled all projects. A statement from Skybound said it had taken ownership of Telltale's The Walking Dead The Final Season and will finish the season. Skybound will work with members of the original Telltale team to finish the story in a way the fans deserve. This is good news.
It is good news for fans of the game. I'm
Bittersweet.
I'm one of them. Yeah. It doesn't seem
I feel like it's
to.
more bitter than sweet.
Yeah. It does. This is a lot less sweet than the previous story.
Yeah.
Not as sweet as Lucy. I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Not as sweet as Lucy.
But all jokes aside, I mean, we're talking about 290 jobs lost, and there were no severance deals, and apparently those people were massively overworked, and Telltale Games was revealed to be somewhat of an evil entity that was exploiting and using his employees and churning out content.
If evil's the word we're going with.
It's more evil than good. Let's put it that way.
Okay, sure.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to say evil, but I just said it.
They even made a Batman game.
Yeah, so it doesn't
Where's
reverse
Justice gone?
their fortunes. However, I am also incredibly invested in the story that those.
You've already played episode 1?
Yeah. I played all the games up until this series
so
of the Walking Dead games.
You haven't played the final season, episode 1 yet?
No,
but you will be.
I hope so.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotional heft in those games. You would want to follow it through to the conclusion because the way it's set up, it's tear-inducing.
Yes.
It's an emotional series.
How far did you get in with the Walking Dead games?
I
Adrian?
have only finished the first 2 seasons, so need to get back in and play season 3. But I was a little bit dismayed when I found out that they might not be finishing the 4th season. So
Yeah,
good
me
to know that
absolutely,
it will
me too.
yeah,
So this is good news, and like I remember a couple of weeks ago when we announced this on the show, you guys weren't in, but
Sorry. Japan.
I kind of naively at the time prayed and hoped that an Angel company would swoop in and
That doesn't surprise me.
and take care of this project and see the thing to the end, not just for the people that have purchased the game already that might not see the end of it, but also because of it's just such a great story that's been told so far. And I think like Lee and some of the other people that are in the studio kind of like wrote off my wishes, but it seems like that is exactly what's happened. And Robert Kirkman, I guess, just put his mouth where his money is, and he's the guy who created the comic back in the day, and he's uber rich now because of licensing deals with TV shows and games and so forth. But it makes sense that he's the one to come in and carry this to the finish line, because this is probably my absolute favorite Walking Dead related item story, and that includes like all the games in the TV show and the comics. I think that the stories that's been told in this is the strongest of them all. So I'm really happy that they're finishing it.
Yeah, you could say that the Walking Dead zombie has risen again.
Yeah, cool, great.
Yeah.
We did it.
Nintendo has patented a design for a smartphone case that transforms it into a first-generation Game Boy. A transparent window and physical buttons that interact with the phone's touchscreen cleverly work to replicate the classic handheld device. The case is yet to be officially acknowledged or announced by Nintendo themselves.
So to clarify, Nintendo patents a lot of designs.
They do.
They don't necessarily make products out of these.
Correct.
So it is pure speculation that this could exist in a physical product that you can buy, but it also has something of a precedent in mini NES, mini SNES. Obviously, just like milking that. What's the reason you play those? Nostalgia engine. I mean, engine. That's what they are. The nostalgia engine.
Nostalgia engine.
Yeah, like Nintendo will quite commonly even preempt other companies from making devices like this, and it's a pretty obvious thing to do, especially for people who do want to milk that nostalgia. So I don't blame Nintendo for hopping on and patenting it, and even if it doesn't become a thing, The
interesting thing is, I believe that. So it's not a one-to-one patent, but I believe a product does already exist on the market, designed mostly for Samsung phones, where you have physical buttons and a D-pad, so it doesn't interface with the touch screen. It just has like physical controls there, and you can actually insert your old Game Boy carts into this thing. I believe that's already a product of some sort for some devices out there. I'm not sure if it's compatible with iPhone stuff. Probably it wouldn't surprise me if it's not.
And most likely not at all endorsed by Nintendo.
Oh, would not surprise again at all. That is the week in gaming news headlines. Thank you so much, Adrian. Yes, that's right. You are listening to Zed Games. My name's Cringy. I'm in studio with Ray and Adrian. And one of the biggest events in the gaming calendar, I feel like it's hard to argue, is PAX Australia.
Oh, yeah.
It is a 3-day nerd extravaganza at the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. And, hey, whether you're in Brisbane, whether you're anywhere across the country, I mean, people all across the country fly in to PAX Australia.
They flock to PAX.
Yeah.
How many years has PAX been going? 2013, I think it started. Yeah. And it's just been getting bigger every single year. And we actually have the content manager of PAX Australia and Oz Comic Con on the line, Luke Lancaster. I guess for people who are uninitiated, Luke, would you mind speaking a little bit to what PAX is and what people might want to, or why people would go to PAX Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. First up, thanks for having me on, guys. Really, really happy to be on the show and talk about PAX. So, as you said, for the uninitiated, PAX is a 3-day event where we try to cater to every kind of gamer who loves any kind of game. And that's video games, that's the new stuff from AAA publishers, it's hidden indie gems, it's classic stuff on PC, it's board games, it's role-playing games, it's card games, it's nerdy bands. Like, we kind of have a no-holds-barred approach. If you love games, PAX is the place for you.
Awesome. So I guess PAX has been going for a while now, and Luke, you've been sort of involved with PAX for at least the last year or two. What was kind of some of the things that took you by surprise, or some of the things that you've enjoyed so far in your role in managing the content around PAX Oz?
Yeah, as you said, we're coming up on year 6 now, which is a bit crazy to think. And last year was the first one where I was part of the ReadBop team. Like before that, I was gaming press, so I was with the media and I was at PAX every year. I think making the jump to this side of it, you really get an appreciation for the scale of the event. Because there's 3 days worth of programming and stuff to do, obviously, but you got to think not every person who's at PAX, and there's tens of thousands of people, not everyone does the same thing for those 3 days. So there is way more than any one person could do for that long weekend, essentially. And hitting notes for people who love things about games that don't either personally appeal or it's something I've never really thought about, or it's a different kind of community or that kind of stuff. There's just a breadth to something I thought I knew quite well that was a really steep learning curve when I came on last year. And we're talking about serious games, about catering to a really diverse game community, stuff that indies want when they're representing games. There's a really strong kind of retro contingent, like kind of classic games and arcade games that I wasn't versed in when I first came on, but you need to really flesh out and round out your knowledge because you are catering to such a diverse and broad community.
Awesome. Hey, Luke, it's Adrian here. Then one of the things you mentioned is the breadth of content that PAX can provide, and especially the indie treasures, the indie treasure trove that the PAX has to uncover each year. How have you found it sort of balancing the indie side of things, which I think PAX was very strong with out of the gate, and then the more sort of AAA side of things, the big industry games like, Call of Duty and Smash Bros. And the like? Has PAX kind of found like a happy medium between the two interests?
Oh, look, thankfully we've got a pretty big building to put it all inside. As you say, like we've always really strongly backed indie content at the show, and I think that's just a reflection of the Australian gaming landscape more than anything else. Like we've got a really, really strong indie development community, so it was kind of unquestioned that we'd support those going into this show. Obviously, we're going to have our big AAA stuff, but the thing about PAX is it's not an E3, it's not a Gamescom, it's not a trade show, so it's not just built on that AAA contingent. So it was kind of designed ground up with that grassroots, independent, smaller scale tier to it. So in terms of finding that balance, it's a bit of a struggle every year because obviously people, and so by people I mean people coming to the show, really want to see new stuff coming from those huge publishers, from first party, Microsoft, Nintendo, Ubisoft, whoever it is. They want to see games from those companies and they want to play stuff that's not out yet, the typical kind of stuff that you do at a show. So that's always going to be a part of the show. But I think given the fact we have a critical mass of people means we have both the space and the responsibility to support that indie community. And that's something we're never going to go back on. It's something we try to grow year on year. And I think we find we've hit a pretty good balance with it in terms of the amount of coverage, the amount of promotion, and the amount of physical space at the show we give to that.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the indie stuff, that, like Adrian and you were saying as well, there's a big focus on both the AAA stuff and the indie stuff, but for people who might not have actually been to a PAX physically, I feel like a pretty massive portion of the exhibition hall, an exhibition hall by itself is dedicated to, I guess, the more community-focused stuff like tabletop games, like the sort of free-play console games and PC games area. I guess, what are some of the challenges in trying to make sure that all doesn't fall apart? Because I've been to my fair share of community events, and it can be quite a challenge to make sure that everything's working, everything's operating. I mean, geez, some of the Couch Warriors stuff can be pretty hectic behind the scenes. How is that from the content perspective as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you say, we've got the full convention hall, and it's almost split down the middle. And the second half is community, free play, and tournament space. So that's very little publisher involvement, or if they're involved, it's not really in an exhibitor kind of way. It's a, come play these games that have been out, or like prize giveaway kind of stuff. So it's really authentic, direct community engagement kind of stuff that we push there. And that's, look, it's a logistical challenge, I think is the political way of saying that. But thankfully, we've got some amazing community groups down in that area. I really don't want to forget anyone here, but I'm probably going to. Like, we work with the Couch Warriors, who you just mentioned, who are one of the best fighting game communities anywhere in the world. We've got a slew of guys in our classic arcade, where we do like classic consoles, arcade machines, pinball, Bartronica, Weird and Retro, Pinmem. Like, I've definitely forgotten some of them. PC guys, like a community group who runs our PC area. So we work with groups already in the community doing that. And where we come in is we have the scale and the resources to, put 100 PCs down, put, 50 consoles out and run those tournaments. We try to just keep the wheels on and hope that...
Just pray to God that it all works.
Yeah. That our organisers there are making it all go. And obviously we've got our Enforcers, which are our volunteer group, who are beyond compare. They are the best volunteer group in the world. And I can say that because I've been to US shows, and it's the same over there. PAX would not run without them.
Speaking of community stuff, one of my favourite parts of the show are the panels. And I just love how the panels are community-driven and focused. It's not just a whole bunch of bigwig executives sort of selling and shouting stuff at you. It's all people within the industry who are talking about things and topics that they've chosen themselves. Can you tell me about some of the ones that you might be excited about for this upcoming PAX?
Yeah, absolutely, because there are some doozies, and I am playing favourites a bit here, but I guess I'm allowed to do that.
Go for it, yeah.
Like, as you said, like, most of what we do in our theatres is community-driven, and I think that's really good in terms of a finger on the pulse kind of thing. So we've got something returning for the third year now, and I absolutely love it. It is just a live play of some just amazing women in gaming who play the worst dating sims they can find on stage. And it's late night, it's a bit blue, it's hilarious. I catch like 10 minutes of it every year and wish I could see more. We have a panel in the GameSpot Theatre, which is actually a bunch of old colleagues and a few people who I'm sure if you follow game writing in Australia, you'll know the names, reviewing all of the fake games that appeared in The Simpsons.
Oh, amazing.
Oh my God.
Like Bone Storm.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that golf one?
Panels,
Lee Carvello's Putting Challenge.
it is actually called Lee Carvello's Simpsons Game Reviewing Challenge.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
I love it.
But yeah, like, we're seeing way more kind of live D&D stuff, which I'm a massive fan of. So we've got Dragon Friends back, we've got Dungeon Crawl, we've got the C-Team coming down for the first time. We're doing a movie night for the first time this year, which I'm super excited about because video game movies are irredeemably awful, and I get to make people watch those.
Is it going to be some live action Super Mario?
Street Fighter.
There's actually, I will do a shameless plug here. Outside Xbox are our hosts for that this year, and they have just put up 2 polls on Twitter, so you can vote. If you want Super Mario to be one of those movies, you should vote for it.
Oh, no. It depends how much you hate the audience.
Yeah.
Not a great film.
Very, very dangerous. Before we move on from panels, Luke, I just want to double-check, is Paxomania returning this year?
Sadly, it is not back this year. We are always going to try to get that back because it was...
It was ridiculous.
It was shambolic in the best possible way.
What was Paxomania all about, Jack?
It is still up on Twitch and YouTube for some reason, so definitely watch last year's.
Yeah, it hasn't been
it
pulled
will
down
come back
somehow.
at some point, but it's not back for this year.
Very quickly, Luke, how would you describe Paxomania? It's I guess blending the love for gaming and love for wrestling is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, and there's like such an overlap between people who love gaming and people who love wrestling. Who knew?
Yeah. But think about the insurance.
That was not a problem last year.
No, look, the less we say about what happened last year, the better, especially if we want to do it again. So Paxomania, League of Heels is the name of the group. It is a mainstay at all of the North American shows. We had it for the first time at PAX Oz last year. So it's essentially like gaming journalists, streamers, people in the industry who adopt pro wrestling personas and then play wrestling video games. Yeah. And there's a whole pro wrestling soap opera storyline connecting it all. It's bizarre and ridiculous, and I don't think it could exist at a show that wasn't PAX.
It was an absolute fever dream, and I am not a big wrestling fan, but somehow Luke Mitchell and Justine managed to drag me on, and holy crap, what a ride. I think one of the last things that I want to check in with regarding PAX is that it's been heralded as a really powerful and really engaging community event for a really long time, and I imagine a lot of that goes to some of the measures that PAX, or some of the efforts that PAX puts resources towards in stuff like the AFK room, in sort of highlighting different communities in the Diversity Lounge. Would you mind speaking a little bit to if people are maybe a little bit hesitant about going to something as, I mean, at this point, PAX is the biggest gaming event in the country. I guess some of that diversity stuff might put some people's minds at ease. Would you mind speaking a bit to that diversity?
Absolutely. First, I'll start with the AFK room, which you just mentioned. That is something that we run alongside an American organization called Take This and Checkpoint, the local mental health and gaming charity. So we will have professionals on site for anyone feeling anxious, overwhelmed, who need a bit of a respite from what is, frankly, a fairly crazy show. It's entirely a safe space. You'll have doctors there who will talk to you, who will be able to advise, any kind of assistance you might need in future. Just chill out, very kind of relaxing environment. The other thing that you mentioned is the Diversity Lounge, which is something we've had every year of the show, and it is curated by Alice and Karma Clark, who are absolutely amazing human beings, and that is a very overt space that is to celebrate LGBTQI plus people in games and who love games. So there is a lot of education stuff there. There's a lot of exhibitors there who are within the community, but it's also a place to just, hang out and play board games or, play some Magic. They do a lot of Magic and D&D stuff in there.
Yeah. Conventions are tiring. It's good to just chill out sometimes on a beanbag,
Yeah, absolutely. But hitting the community stuff on top of that, that's something that we're really building up. So last year, we had a small community space. We've actually doubled that this year. So we've got 2 community rooms. We have Generosity, who are probably one of the biggest charity streams in Australia, live on site at PAX for the 3 days this year. We have another one that I can't talk about yet, but it's also pretty cool. We've got a bunch of showcases for students. We've got the next exhibit, which is being curated by Ellie McLean. Sorry, I'm rattling now, but we've just got some amazing stuff, really trying to do what we can to support and promote that community. And that's from both a game development side and from an attendee side. So if you are worried that PAX isn't for you, when you first walk in the doors, we have can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear, because now I'm going to say language warning. Please swear, Luke.
Okay. We have a fuck off huge banner that says welcome home. And everything we do tries to drive that message to everyone who walks through those doors. This is a place for you. You will find people around who love the things you love.
Awesome.
Amazing.
I think that's the best way to put PAX Australia. I'm looking forward to it. I imagine a lot of people in Brisbane and around the country, and truthfully, not too far, all across the world, I imagine. There are international 3-day passes that sell out every single year as well. I'm hype as hell for it. Thank you so much for your time, Luke. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, guys. See you at the show.
See you soon. Ray, you've been playing 2 Point Hospital.
Yes.
Why?
Why do we play video games? Shall we do a segment on that?
What does it mean?
It's a deep and loaded question. Why do we do anything?
First of all, why is it called 2 Point Hospital?
Okay. It's a business simulation game. So you're the director of a hospital or several hospitals because you keep working your way through the chain and buying more.
Love House MD. Is this like the TV show House MD?
No.
Shit. Where's Hugh Laurie?
It's kind of the spiritual successor to a game from the 90s called Theme Hospital, which itself is a kind of spin-off of Theme Park, which is a game by Bullfrog.
It's a spin-off of an expansion of a spiritual successor.
Yeah. Basically. So it's Bullfrog Games, who's the amazing company behind Black and White, and Populous, Peter Molyneux, who has recently suffered a lot of media scrutiny due to his outlandish claims that are often unsubstantiated in the final product. But anyway... There's a whole bunch of people that worked on the original Theme Hospital that were floating around and apparently come together to work on 2 Point Hospital, making it a legitimate spiritual successor to the original game. So in 2 Point Hospital, you start with an empty building and your job basically is to transform it into a fully functioning hospital. From the reception
I have
to the
no
doctors,
concerns
pharmacies.
that this could go wrong whatsoever.
Yeah.
Does it all go wrong?
There's a lot that can go wrong.
Yeah, because it's business management.
It's business management, but by God, people's lives are at stake here.
Oh, God.
Because, you know, if you have a guy who's got a terminal illness waiting around for too long, you know what happens?
They die.
They die.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
So the stakes are real here.
Oh, no.
As real as they can get in a video game simulation. So, fortunately, though, the serious nature of the gameplay is sort of counterweighted with the lighthearted humor present throughout.
So there is lighthearted humor.
Yeah, as
Good.
well as the fact that all of the diseases are fictional and humorous as well. For example, bogwarts.
Oh, nice.
There's lightheadedness. There's crossbones. There's motor mouth or something like that. Like
I love
verbal
motor mouth.
diarrhea and stuff. And people who are clowns that don't want to be clowns and things like that. So it's not like
So it's the game equivalent of Patch Adams. It's
uh,
not House MD, it's Patch Adams.
maybe I don't
getting
know. And as well as that, there's like voices over the PA that are making very dry commentaries on things that are happening and telling you to water the plants and things like that. And there's also a hospital radio station that is emceed or DJ'd, I suppose, by a sound-alike of. If you've ever seen the Tarantino film Reservoir Dogs, there's a radio segment called Sounds of the 70s with a guy who's got a real deadpan, monotone, kind of really bored-sounding voice. And I don't know if it's him, but he does a really good job at sounding
that.
like
I mean, there's a
him.
radio station that's not Z Games in a game. How dare they?
Z Games isn't a radio
and
station.
that's really funny.
Show, radio show.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot, Ray. There's a lot going on. And
There
and
is,
Just
yeah.
looking at pictures on the product listing on Steam, it seems like there is a lot of micromanaging. Is it overwhelming to the point where it's overbearing?
It can be.
Okay.
Yeah, but it thankfully does a really good job at kind of drip feeding you. I'm trying to think of a hospital term, but anyway, in small doses. Yeah,
How many
there we go.
IV dripping you? The saline solution.
How
Saline-
many puns can I fit in this review?
in small doses, it introduces you to all these
So
complex
the
logistical
learning
things.
curve is gradual enough
Yeah.
that it's not alienating.
Yeah, so it's
Right.
basically you start off, hey, here's a reception area, you put it where you want it, you hire a couple of monkeys to run the place, and then you put a GP's office in, put a doctor in there, and a pharmacy, and then you've got kind of a circuit going on where people are paying money, and then you're getting more money to put in more facilities, and you can treat a greater range of illnesses and so forth. And once you've kind of succeeded in all the objectives that particular hospital has set for you, you can move on to the next one, and it sort of introduces more elements, more complex things
So
like
you're-
training your staff.
You're
and
hospital jumping.
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Ray,
yeah.
what I want to know, being as morbid as I am, is what happens when it all goes wrong?
What happens when it all goes wrong?
Just
Well,
people die.
yeah, basically people are they walk out of the doctor's office and they're either sad that they're going to die, or they're waiting literally on a bench in the waiting area and they just die.
This game sounds horrible.
And you know, sometimes there's a big backlog, like you just don't have the resources, you're running out of money, and you'll just have a bunch of people that are on death row, I suppose.
Oh, no.
And then you got to hit that escape key and reload that last save because
is it like a roguelike? Like, how does it...
no, it's very forgiving. You can restart any level, and
Okay.
you can. Yeah, it's pretty easy once you've got a few bucks to just move on to the next hospital and ruin that, or
That's nice.
or you know, make that awesome if you're able to.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Look, but overall, I mean, it's really a lot of fun. It's sort of Zen-like, you know.
Okay, cool.
Like
That's what I want to hear.
yeah, you kind of get into the motions, and you kind of like once you've got the whole like placing everything down and knowing what exactly each room needs, like which staff they need and things like that, it's really cool to just sort of let the game wash over you and kind of make those big macro decisions like how much am I going to dedicate to this particular illness, like what am I going to specialize in, and dealing with like sudden epidemics and things like that.
Does the game wash over you with its soundtrack, or is it kind of just like the ambience of a hospital, like the beeps and the
It's very
shadow.
much the music is it plays a very large role in the Zen-like quality because it's always going. It's kind of there is a like I said before, a real radio station that kind of goes through different genres. And there's swing and big band, and then there'll be like a ska reggae.
And you're just like
thing.
looking at your clinic, and people are sitting on the bench dying, and you're like,
And
oh,
it's,
it's a bit.
it's really like
It's a
pleasant.
contrast?
It's very pleasant music. There's a big contrast, and like when things are going wrong, the music is just happy and enjoyable, and so it's sometimes funny in that way.
Cool. So it is upbeat enough, not too depressing. There's plenty of micromanagement. 2 Point Hospital. 2 Point Hospital. It is out now on Windows, Mac, and Linux. You're playing it on Steam.
That's right.
And it ran fine. There weren't any weird technical issues.
There are some issues.
Okay.
But there's a few things where I couldn't progress and I had to reload, and people getting stuck in weird places and objects.
But there's obviously a lot going on anyway.
There is. But from what I've seen, the team are actively working on it, and they've got a pretty decent community and listening to feedback. So it might have been buggy at the start. You might have read a few things about it being buggy, but it's being patched. Yeah,
I'll just say quickly, I'd love if they worked some of those bugs into the actual gameplay, where it's like, Doctor, I've become stuck inside some sort of object in the game world.
Very
Please
weird.
help.
It is also a new release, so it was released on 30th of August, so I imagine a lot of those patches are continuing to come thick and fast, and it is, published by Sega, so hopefully 2 Point Studios can continue.
Just the medicine for you.
That's just what you need.
Just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah. Just what the
God, I would have liked some of that medicine in Japan,
prescribed.
not loaded in with caffeine.
We got very sick in Japan and then took painkillers, which we didn't know had caffeine in them before bed, or at least I did, and I couldn't sleep.
I can sleep with caffeine, but Adrian can't sleep at all, so he was awake from midnight till 6 a.m. playing Mega Man.
Yes, hot tip, read what's on your medication, even if it's in another language. Google Translate.
Google Translate is phenomenal.
Every time.
That is the end of the show for this week. Unfortunately, it's okay. We'll be back next week. See you soon.
See ya.
Bye.